I'm Dave Champion, and as many of you know, I've been transitioning away from political commentary to spend more time on health issues. If you're ready to tune out because you follow me for political discourse, not health matters, stay with me because I'm going to give you facts right now that tie the two together. The medical industry constitutes 18% of the total U.S. economy, almost a fifth. When a single industry constitutes almost a fifth of the national economy, you know politics will play an ever-increasing role in that industry, as we've seen over the last few years. But the question is, does it need to be this way? 80% of the U.S. population is overweight or obese. 80%. But since people love to argue about the accuracy of such numbers, let's say that it's inaccurate, it's too high. Do you feel better if it's 75%, 70, 65? Are we so inured to being unhealthy that if we can peel off 5 or 10% from the obscenely high number of 80%, then the remaining mass unhealthiness becomes somehow acceptable? Medical researchers tell us that 1/3 of the U.S. population suffers from insulin-related medical problems. Insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, or type 1 diabetes. And patients are being moved through the so-called healthcare system so fast these days in order to maximize profit that you can be diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic and prescribed insulin and not actually be a type 1 diabetic. I bet you didn't even know that happens. Hell, you probably didn't even know it was possible. One MD who specializes in insulin-related medical conditions puts the number of insulin-related problems not at 1/3, but at 50%. I believe she's closer to the mark. When it comes to insulin-related medical conditions, things are even worse than they sound. Generally speaking, the affected 50% is the older 50% of Americans. But two things are true. First, that means the younger 50% that are getting older every day are heading straight into the same problems. And second, and perhaps more disturbingly, the age where insulin-related medical conditions first begin occurring is getting steadily younger. Deaths from heart disease numbers are falling. Good news, right? Wrong. Deaths from heart disease are falling only because Americans are giving billions of dollars a year to Big Pharma to keep them alive while completely ignoring the issue of getting or being healthy. In other words, Americans are still doing exactly the wrong things, but managing to stay alive by taking prescription drugs. How insane is that? In the last several years, Alzheimer's and dementia have been increasing at an alarming rate. Why now? Yeah, that's too lengthy to get into in this video, but I'll give you a hint. What if a gentleman who is 70 years old today has been, thanks to the government and the medical community, eating a diet for the previous 40 or 50 years guaranteed to dramatically increase the chances of getting Alzheimer's or dementia? Even within the medical community, a few of its members have been inquisitive enough and brave enough to go beyond the rigid dogma of their own industry. In doing so, they have discovered that dogma is 180 degrees opposed to facts, science, and truth. Sarah Halberg is one such MD. Let's hear what she found when she went beyond the 50-year-old medical community dogma. Quote, I got board certified in obesity medicine and read every research study I could get my hands on, and it became exceedingly evident when I read the literature that low fat had no support. In her clinic at Indiana University, Dr. Halberg started putting her patients on a low-carb, high-fat diet, keto. Here is her statement on the results. Quote, our patients just did so much better on it. We realized that what was happening was real weight loss, and that was our intention, but much more important for us was what was happening with people's diabetes. We were seeing people getting off diabetes medications. We were getting people off huge amounts of insulin. I have never seen anything like it. It was so crazy how remarkable it was in a practical sense. Given the success she witnessed with her patients on the keto diet, she started looking for how many other medical facilities were putting patients on keto to get them healthy. Here's what she found. Quote, it was nowhere. Why was this not what everyone was doing? Why was this not commonplace? We are having such an impact on those people's lives. It was infuriating. Why is the medical industry so opposed to the facts, opposed to science, and opposed to acknowledging consistent real-world results? And that brings us back to how being healthy is in America today a political issue. 18% of the U.S. economy translates into the medical industry occupying almost $3.5 trillion of the economy each year. Let's say we could wave a magic wand and suddenly make 50% of those who are today receiving medical care healthy. That 50% would no longer need medical care. That would deprive the medical industry of $1.75 trillion. Worse yet, from the perspective of the medical community, imagine if we could again wave our magic wand and over the next several years make it so 80% of those who otherwise would have needed to seek out a doctor would instead be healthy and have no need for medical care. That scenario would deprive the medical industry of $2.8 trillion. I want to remind you, we're talking trillions of dollars here, not billions, trillions. Does anyone in their right mind believe the medical industry is willing to embrace the truth if the cost for them doing so is the loss of trillions of dollars? I should also point out that this isn't just a U.S. problem. A doctor in Australia discovered the truth we're discussing, started using it with his patients, and had the same amazing results. The government, at the urging of the medical industry, spent 2 years trying to revoke his medical license. We've had a raging debate in the U.S. for the last several years concerning nationalized health care. What has fueled that debate has been the ever-rising cost of medical care, which resulted in a significant portion of Americans not being able to afford medical care. But what is the cause of the ever-increasing cost of medical care? There are several factors, but the one that outstrips all the rest by far is demand. When any product or service is in high demand, the price goes up. And if it remains in demand, it goes up more. And if it still remains in demand, it just keeps going up. That's just the nature of markets. We have a health care crisis because we have a health crisis. And the health crisis is driven by one thing and one thing only. Americans are eating what they've been told was healthy for them by the United States government and the U.S. medical community for the last 50 years. And that information has been wrong, dead wrong, and it's killing, quite literally killing us. Can we change? Or perhaps a better question is, are we willing to change? I don't know. At this point in my life, I've come to the opinion that a whole lot of people are weak and lazy. Exactly how many fit that description I leave to you. As a society, are we so weak and lazy we're willing to be plagued by needless illness and other health problems rather than make some simple changes? As a fantasy exercise, let's imagine that 80% of the U.S. population is intelligent and not weak or lazy and adopt the keto way of eating. Within a year, we'd probably see demand for medical care fall 50%. Within 3 years, probably 75% because people would be healthy again. What would happen to medical prices if demand dropped by 75%? Americans would see a dramatic fall in the cost of medical care. But here's another factor that would push prices down even further. In an environment where the customer base was steadily shrinking, real competition would set in between providers, and medical prices would crash. A procedure that costs $2,500 today would probably cost you $200. A $200 office visit today would likely be $30 or $40. An MRI on state-of-the-art equipment would be maybe $150. And here's where this all ties into politics. Would America need nationalized health care if almost everyone was healthy and routine medical costs was actually inexpensive? Is this a pipe dream? Now, that's up to my fellow citizens. My job is to get you informed. To that end, I've created YouTube and Facebook pages to share the truth with you. Whether on Facebook or YouTube, the page's name is Busy Keto Life. I encourage you to be an active part of these pages to change your health and life for the better. When you've proven it to yourself, then share it with others. My sincerest hope is that you make the decision to leave behind all the BS with which you've been programmed during your lifetime and get healthy. Thanks for spending your time with me today. Take care.